Yes, so I'm here with LL, and we are going to sort of do a combination of read and summarize the Grimm brothers' tale, The Fisherman and His Wife. Um, so there was once upon a time a fisherman who lived with his wife in a miserable pigsty close by the sea, and every day he went out fishing. And once, as he was sitting with his rod looking at the clear water, his line suddenly went down, far down below, and when he drew it up again, he brought out a large flounder. Then the flounder said to him, "Listen, you fisherman, I pray you, let me live. I am no flounder really, but an enchanted prince. What good will it do you to kill me? I should not be good to eat. Put me in the water again, and let me go." "Come," said the fisherman, "there is no need for so many words about it. A fish that can talk I should certainly let go anyhow." With that he put him back into the clear water, and the flounder went to the bottom, leaving a long streak of blood behind him. Then the fisherman got up and went home to his wife in the pigsty. So the wife asks him if he's caught anything. He says, "Well, no. Well, then again, I did catch a flounder who was an enchanted prince, so I let him go again." "And did you not wish for anything first?" said the woman. "No," said the man. "What should I wish for?" And she said, "Surely it's hard to live as we do. Why don't you ask him for a small cottage for us? Go back. He'll certainly give us that." And the woman says, "You did catch him and you let him go again. He is sure to do it. Go at once." And so the man goes back, and the sea was all green and yellow and no longer so smooth. And then he says this ditty that he says several times in this story whenever he goes back to the flounder. "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come, I pray you, here to me. For my wife, good Isabel, has sent me here against my will." Then the flounder came swimming up to him and said, "Well, what does she want then?" "Ah," said the man, "I did catch you, and my wife says I really ought to have wished for something. She does not like to live in a wretched pigsty." He asked for the cottage. The flounder says, "Go to it. She has it already." So when the man went home, his wife was no longer in the pigsty, but instead was sitting on a bench in front of a small cottage. And she took him by the hand and said, "Just come look inside. Now, isn't this a great deal better?" So they went in. There was a small porch and a pretty little parlor and a bedroom, a kitchen and pantry with the best of furniture and fitted up with the most beautiful things made of tin and brass. They had a small yard with hens and ducks, a little garden with flowers and fruit. "Look," said the wife, "is not that nice?" "Yes," said the husband, "and so we must always think on it. Now we will live quite contented." "We will think about that," said the wife. And with that, they ate something and went to bed. And so a week or a fortnight, 2 weeks passes. The woman says, "Listen, husband, this cottage is too small for us. I should like to live in a great stone castle. Go to the flounder." "Ah," says the man, "the cottage is quite enough. Why should we live in a castle?" "What?" said the woman. "Just go there. The flounder can always do that." So she doesn't really try to say that the flounder, owes you his life again. It's just go. We can get that. And the wife says, "No, it might make him angry." "Go," said the woman. "He can do it quite easily." The man's heart grew heavy. It is not right, he thinks, and yet he went. Now, when he went the sea, the water was quite purple and dark blue, and gray and thick, and no longer so green and yellow, but it was still quiet. And he stood there, he said his ditty, "Flounder, flounder in the sea, come, I pray you, here to me, for my wife, good Isabel, has sent me here against my will." "Well, what does she want then?" said the flounder. The man's half scared, asked for a great stone castle. Go to her. She is standing before the door." Then the man went away, intending to go home, but when he got there, he found a great stone palace, and his wife was just standing on the steps going in, and she took him by the hand and said, "Come in." So he went in with her, and the castle was a great hall paved with marble, many servants who flung the doors wide, and the walls were all bright with beautiful hangings, and in the rooms were chairs and tables of pure gold, crystal chandeliers, and all the rooms and bedrooms had carpets, and the tables were laden with food and wine. They had a courtyard, stables for horses and cows, all the trimmings. Come, said the woman, isn't this beautiful? Yes, indeed, said the man. Now let it be, and we will live in this beautiful castle and be content. We will consider about that, said the woman, and sleep upon it. So next morning she awoke first. It was just daybreak, and from her bed she saw the beautiful country lying before her, and she was not content with it. Get up, husband, just peep out the window. Look, couldn't we be king over all the land? Look, go to the flounder, we will be the king. So she's always not looking on the being of things, but always looking at things to have, to own, to control. Why should we be king? I do not want to be king. Well, if you won't be king, I will be king, said the wife. Go to the flounder. Ah, wife, why do you want to be king? So he goes to the flounder, and now the water's quite dark gray, heaving up from below, smelling putrid. And he does his ditty, flounder, flounder by the sea. My good wife has sent me here against my will. Well, what does she want then? She wants to be king. Go to her. She is king already. So now they have a palace, great tower, magnificent ornaments, sentinel, kettle drums, trumpets. Everything was made of real marble and gold with velvet covers and great golden tassels. His wife was sitting on a high throne of gold and diamonds with a great crown of gold on her head and a scepter of pure gold and jewels in her hand, and on both sides of her stood her maids in waiting in a row, each of them always one head shorter than the last. Then he went and stood before her and said, Ah, wife, now you are king. Yes, now I am king. Now we should wish for nothing more, said he. Nay, husband, said the woman quite anxiously. You see the change in her. I find time passes very heavily. I can bear it no longer. So as she gets into the realm of the political, she's anxious and she can bear it no longer. She's getting up earlier and earlier and sleeping less and less. Now she wants to be emperor. Ah, wife, why do you wish to be emperor? Husband, said she, go to the flounder. I will be emperor. No reason. Alas, wife, said the man, he cannot make you emperor. I assure you he cannot. What, said the woman, I am the king, and you are nothing but my husband. Now she's putting him down, comparing things. Will you go this moment? Go at once. If he can make a king, he can make an emperor. I will be emperor. Go instantly. So he was forced to go. As he went, he was troubled in his mind. It will not be end well. The flounder will at last be tired out. With that he reached the sea, and the sea was quite black and thick, and began to boil up from below, so that it threw up bubbles, and such a sharp wind blew over it that it curdled, and the man was afraid. Flounder, flounder in the sea, come, I pray you, here to me, for my wife, good Isabel, has sent me here against my will. What does she want? Wants to be emperor. Go to her, said the flounder. She is emperor already. So the man went, and when he got there, the whole palace was made of polished marble with alabaster figures and golden ornaments, and soldiers were marching before the door, blowing trumpets and beating cymbals and drums. And in the house, barons and counts and dukes were going about as servants. Then they opened the doors to him, which were made of pure gold. And when he entered, there sat his wife on a throne, which was made of one piece of gold, and at least 2 miles high, and she wore a great golden crown that was 3 yards high and set with diamonds and carbuncles. And in one hand she had the scepter, and in the other the imperial orb. And on both sides of her stood the yeomen of the guard in 2 rows, each being smaller than the one before him, from the biggest giant, who was 2 miles high, to the very smallest dwarf, just as big as my little finger. And before it stood a number of princes and dukes. And the man went and stood among them and said, Wife, are you emperor now? Yes, quoth she, now I am emperor. Then he stood and looked at her well, and when he had looked at her for some time, he said, Ah, wife, be content. You are emperor. Husband, said she, why are you standing there? Now I am emperor, but I will be pope too. Go to the flounder. Alas, there is but one Christendom. He cannot make you pope. Husband, said she, I will be pope. Go immediately. I must be pope this very day. No, wife, said the man. The flounder can't make you pope. Husband, said she, what nonsense. If he can make an emperor, he can make a pope. Go to him directly. I am emperor. You are nothing but my husband. Will you go at once? Then he was afraid and went, but he was quite faint and shivered and shook, and his knees and legs trembled. And a high wind blew over the land, and the clouds flew, and toward evening all grew dark, and the leaves fell from the trees, and the water rose and roared as if it were boiling, and splashed upon the shore. And in the distance he saw ships which were firing guns in distress, pitching and tossing on the waves. And yet at the midst of the sky there was still a small bit of blue, though on every side it was as red as in a heavy storm. So full of despair, he asked, Flounder, flounder in the sea, come, I pray you. My good wife has sent me here against my will. Well, what does she want? Wants to be pope. She is pope already. So he went, and when he got there, he saw what seemed to be a large church surrounded by palaces. He pushed his way through the crowd. However, everything was lighted up with thousands and thousands of candles inside, and his wife was clad in gold. She was sitting on a much higher throne and had three great golden crowns on, and round about her there was much ecclesiastical splendor, and on both sides of her was a row of candles, the largest of which was as tall as the very tallest tower. And there were emperors and kings kissing her shoe. Wife, said the man, and looked attentively at her, you are now pope. Yes, I am now pope. So he stood and looked at her, and it was just as if he was looking at the bright sun. When he had stood looking at her thus for a short time, he said, Ah, wife, if you are pope, do well enough alone. But she was stiff as a post and did not move or show any signs of life. Then he said, Wife, now that you are pope, be satisfied. You cannot become anything greater now. I will consider about that, said the woman. At this they both went to bed, but she was not satisfied, and a greediness let her have no sleep, for she was continually thinking what there was left for her to be. Yeah, he sleeps well. He's serving her. He's running about, but she's the one with the unquiet mind. The man slept well and soundly, but the woman could not fall asleep at all and flung herself from one side to the other the whole night through, unable to call to mind anything else. At length the sun began to rise, and when the woman saw the red of dawn, she sat up in bed and looked at it. And when, through the window, she saw the sun thus rising, she said, Cannot I too order the sun and moon to rise? Husband, she said, poking him in the ribs with her elbow, wake up, go to the flounder, for I wish to be like God is. The man was still half asleep, but he was so horrified that he fell out of bed. He thought he must have heard wrong, and rubbed his eyes and said, Alas, wife, what are you saying? Husband, said she, if I can't order the sun and moon to rise, and have to look on and see the sun and moon rising, I can't bear it. If I can't control everything, if I in this world, I can't bear to see it. I shall not know what it is to have another happy hour unless I can make them rise myself. Yeah, this infant terrible, Tarib. Then she looked at him so terribly that a shudder ran over him and said, Go at once. I wish to be like God. Alas, wife, said the man, falling on his knees before her, the flounder cannot do that. He can make an emperor and a pope. I beseech you, go on as you are and be pope. Then she fell into a rage, and her hair flew wildly about her head, and she cried, I will not endure this. I will not bear it any longer. So he ran like a madman, but outside a great storm was raging. So the the intensity of the disturbance goes from just the sea to the clouds above it to the ships to the land now to the air. Everything, the whole world is tumultuous. And it thundered and lightened. The sea came in with black waves as high as church towers and mountains. Then he cried his ditty to the flounder, for my wife, good Isabel, has sent me here against my will. Well, what does she want then? She wants to be like God. Go to her, and you will find her back again in the dirty pigsty. And there they are, living still at this very time. Yeah, so we both thought this was kind of an unexpected ending. You knew it was going to be some kind of disaster, but in a way, this isn't a disaster. They just went,
Mhm.
it feels like a disaster if you think of how much they lost, she lost. But what did you think about the ending?
Mhm. Well, I just started thinking about just spiritual ideas of, God being easier to find in nature and a simple life. So,
Mm,
so that's what the founder knew too,
mm,
and that's how you can be like God.
mm.
It's easier to be like God, closer, uh,
Well, I mean, she'd
closer
meant
to
like
nature.
God as in commanding based on will the heavens and the whole world, right? Like that was a natural progression of
Mhm.
her increase in power. She went
Mhm.
from having some political power to having a lot to having a religious power and being closer to God as the
Mhm.
Pope. And then finally, yeah, she wanted to have total power.
Mhm.
But and that's what she meant by being like God. And then when the flounder sent her back into the pigsty, you're saying that she was closer to nature, she was less political, less
Mhm.
grasping after worldliness, and therefore she was closer to God, right? But was she
Mhm.
more like God?
Well, I think she was probably misunderstanding what it is, what being like God means. So she was thinking of it in terms of power and control. Uh,
Yeah.
when that's not, I don't think that's of course, that's part of our ideas of God, but it's not the main point about God, I think.
Yeah, and that is
Or,
kind of the sort of more sort of ancient ideas of gods is that they are willful and they're basically like powerful humans, right? They're like forces
Mhm.
of nature and things. They're fickle. Apollo skinning Marsyas after Marsyas had challenged him to a contest and lost. Um, but are you saying maybe being like God, and this was what I was thinking too, is that it is less about exerting your will and power, but more like being powerful, but in service of harmony, which is
Mhm.
what she continually is going against. I mean, in a sort of medieval social order without much social mobility, I mean, she's kind of maybe going against things. But either way, like going past, I think, the little cottage, she kind of was, yeah. I mean, she was thinking of having a great castle, great lands, but what about all the responsibility that you have for all the people on those lands and everything? And then, of course,
Mhm.
being a king and everything, she's only thinking of everything that she's getting and is looking like and being, not in terms of serving, which you could say an idea of God is not that he is trying to, manipulate the heavens, manipulate the sun and the moon, like at the end of the story, to
Mhm.
kind of just for his entertainment, for lack of a better word, but more to to serve everybody, to nourish those fields and everything that she was always looking upon with avarice, or to help the tides for the sea and the fish with the
Mhm.
enchanted prince in it and everything.
Mhm. Yeah. So yeah, and I kind of noticed how the sea was darkening and changing color throughout, and
Mm.
to where eventually the sky was being affected too.
Yeah, it
So
kept spreading and spreading. It's like the whole world was going into disorder
mm,
from this one small origin.
yeah, so I just kind of saw it as uh, probably I kind of saw it as both like a representation of the soul. So I think for the husband, it was just I think his soul kind of knowing something was wrong, so that's why it kept changing color. And then for the wife, I think it was just representing her becoming more and more divorced from from God in a way,
Yeah.
as she kept wanting this power.
Yeah, I think
And that's
that's
the
right.
way.
I think that's right. Yeah, they started off in the pigsties, sort of close to the earth, close to nature, close to animals, close to the sea, closer to the sea, not walled off literally from it.
Mm,
And then, yeah, as they go from the cottage to the castle to the palaces, they're more and more have more and more levels between them and the source, the source of all life, the source of all their wealth and everything. They're getting more and more
mm,
divorced from all that and God, you know.
mhm,
Yeah, and he, the messenger, the husband, is always the one kind of going back and forth and kind of he is the one that is seeing what her wishes, her will. I keep coming back to that word in this story, is doing to the world. And she's not. She's getting more and more walled off from it. So, this is something that Ian and I have talked about in some of our other podcasts, like especially with Robin Hood, as Robin Hood is kind of the idea of how to sort of live as a subject and try to help the people when the ruler of the land is illegitimate and is is rapacious and ruling in their own self-interest rather than the interests of the people.
yeah.
But you thought
Mhm.
this also has there's some idea of living a simple life in the pigsty, or at least I keep going back to the cottage. I feel like that because kind of like, many
Yeah.
magical stories. And maybe the reason the husband didn't want to even go to the cottage, I mean, it was just because of his character, right? He's content. But I wonder if also maybe he understands that once you get that greed started, it's hard to stop.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that the story was just kind of saying that the simple life makes it easier to stay closer to God versus the political life or life where you're kind of chasing kind of more power in some kind of way, whether it's in the resources you can obtain or um, what you have and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
And I think that's a classical Christian teaching, and I
mm,
think that's true. Yeah, the more
mhm,
it is easier for a rich man to pass through an eye of a needle than to attain the kingdom of
mm,
heaven, something like that.
yeah,
And yeah, not impossible. And there's maybe some reference to like an entrance to, I think, Jerusalem or some city back then that was called the Eye of a Needle, that maybe you
mm,
had to enter in with your camel. It was a low doorway, so you had to unburden your camel of its uh, saddlebags or whatever they had back then, the
mm,
belongings that you had packed on the
mm,
camel. So the idea you had
mm,
to get rid of the belongings
mm,
or carry them yourself
mm.
to pass through that doorway called the Eye of the Needle. But anyway, um, yeah, not impossible, but if you're not carrying your riches lightly, if you can't live contentedly, possibly even in a pigsty, how close to God could you ever be
Hmm.
with your riches, and especially, and I would think
Hmm.
especially power. I mean, as
Hmm.
soon as she's sitting on the throne and has all the maids in waiting, or the counts and the dukes and the kings and all the people with titles and everything, I think, yeah, you're getting so big for you're getting so big in your mind and just wanting more. And
Hmm.
as the story shows, she's getting more and more restless, discontented, the more she has, the more she
Hmm.
wants.
Yeah, it also kind of made me think of uh, just Buddhist teachings too, since a lot of it also seems to kind of echo the same thing that the enlightenment is found in the simplest of things uh, in life. So it seems like all spiritualities know this. So you'll see that, like you said, echoed everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and you and I were talking a little bit about, yeah, the second noble truth in Buddhism, that suffering is caused by grasping, and this seems exactly that. She was always, the more she had,
Mm.
well, she always was grasping after more, and past the little cottage where she was maybe a little contented, although I think she was always thinking of more.
Mm.
But at least she was a little contented, maybe for like 1 or 2 weeks in the little
Mhm.
cottage. After that, seems like the momentum was going in her mind, and she was always grasping after more until
Yeah.
the finale, when she wanted to control the sun and the moon. She wanted to control everything. She could not
Mhm.
look upon anything and think that it was out of her control.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's just that tendency, just the higher you climb, the more you're going to spend time preoccupying yourself with how to keep that, which, well, I maybe not everyone in high positions, but maybe for majority.
Are you
Uh,
saying it's kind of a loss aversion? You're not only thinking of getting more, but afraid of losing what you have?
yeah, like afraid of losing and then falling into like we were noticing like wanting more. So
And that's exactly what ended up
mhm.
happening to her. She lost all
Mhm.
of it. What do you think about the ending? I mean, yeah, go, what does he say? Alas, said he, she wants to be like God. The flounder says, go to her and you will find her back again in the dirty pigsty. So he doesn't say she is like God. Maybe it's an ambiguous ending.
Um, well, it's kind of what I was saying earlier. Just uh, I mean, the founder like also knows that the simple life makes it easier to be like God, and that God is kind of found everywhere, even in the lowest of places, or especially in the lowest of places, maybe.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I think that's true. And of course, especially for Christians, I mean, the the Christ is, a poor figure, spat on, beaten, executed. So, yeah, he is,
mhm.
in a way, the God is to be found among the lowest, as he said in the Sermon on the Mount and other places. The meek shall inherit the earth and all that.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think just the more you're enclosed in the unnatural or the artificial, like these grand buildings, it's easier to be more disconnected, and just not connected with what is outside. So um, yeah, it makes it harder. And like we were talking about, you just become maybe a more political kind of person, uh, which to me is kind of the opposite uh, of finding God.
Yeah, you keep kind of returning to that overall kind of theme here of how, yeah, she's divorced, she's shut off from the sea and what is happening in
Hmm.
nature all around.
Hmm.
And as she, yeah, gets, as she ascends sort of in the story, and even towards the end, her throne is at least 2 miles high. I mean, it's just
Hmm.
showing she's just further and further away
Hmm.
from that
Yeah.
pigsty.
And you made the comment also earlier that when she's looking out the window, she can't appreciate the sun and moon for what they are, but she's only
Yeah.
thinking of what she can get.
Yeah. I mean,
That
she's
she can.
literally looking through a frame
Mhm.
at the outside. And I'm thinking of the psychological concept of framing, where there are many different ways to view the same thing. And I think the story makes clear they have a very pleasant scene outside that they can look at. And especially thinking where they came from, that they didn't have those things. They were down with the pigs before, and now they're looking out and they have these domesticated animals and they this fruiting trees and all of this wonderful bounty. But, instead she's thinking of what she can do with it and what more she can get. She's thinking about that flounder in the ocean that, as you point out, she never looks at, you know. She's always sending her sort of servant husband out to go get to extract more from it. Yeah, she's not living in harmony with things.
Mhm.
She's not seeing things for what they are, but what she could be and have.
Mhm. And I think her name Isabel, I think that comes from Elizabeth, and I think that name means God is my oath in Hebrew. So yeah, just a little name etymology there.
Hmm.
I thought it
God
was
is my oath.
yeah, I think that's what the name means if I'm not mistaken. So
What could
uh,
that mean in this story?
yeah, I thought it was kind of just a little ironic, but considering the story, but I wonder if that was intentional or not. Or
Yeah. Yeah, it could be some reference. I mean, could have been some historical figure known to people that would have made it in here. But I still feel like there's a little to unpack about the ending of the story with them
Mhm.
going back to the dirty pigsty. Is it a haunting line? Is it a funny line? The end. Go to her and you will find her back again in the dirty pigsty. And there they are living still at this very time. Is that almost like some kind of purgatory? Like no matter when you're hearing this story, they're there. Are they like Sisyphus or something, you know? Is
Mhm.
that their labors?
Well, I didn't see it as a kind of a purgatory or kind of negative thing. I saw it more as a teaching or positive that, this is how they will be more like God. So, but
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, I know you
interested though
keep
in
saying that.
hearing more of that view you have
Hmm.
or idea.
Yeah, I just don't know. It maybe depends on how you read it, but I don't know. We maybe we've understood all that we're going to understand right now about the ending.
You're still figuring it out, or
You're saying
you
they
may.
they still, yeah, they just went back to the way they were before. So
Hmm.
there's this kind of recurrence of there's this loop back to the beginning of the story.
Hmm. Yeah, and yeah, so they're still together, and it's not mentioning that, like there was some kind of punishment or something negative happening because of how she was before. So I I kind of view it as maybe she's now maybe going to go back on a redeem herself, or she has the potential to now. So
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, she didn't before.
mhm,
Maybe she can understand God more now as not someone or an entity that exists for itself, but more for others or yeah, as like you're talking about as part of the natural order.
mhm,
And I do think that's true about any responsibility. It's you're like you're a shepherd. You're uh, maybe you're there to take care of the flock. Of course,
mhm,
in Plato's Republic, Thrasymachus will point out, well,
mhm,
the shepherd wants to get the wool and kill the sheep and stuff. But
mhm. Yeah. And I think you probably weren't wrong. It does sound like a purgatory, and from like the Catholic perspective, purgatory is still an opportunity to get to heaven. Uh,
yeah,
as
that's
long
right.
as
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
purgatory
yeah.
does not mean hell or Hades or anything.
Mhm,
Yeah, it's just it's viewed as a dull place because that's where your sins are burned off or something like that
mhm.
before you can enter
Yeah,
the pure realm of heaven.
yeah. So it's not pleasant, kind of. So like a dirty pigsty isn't pleasant. So, but yeah, there's like I said, there's still a chance for redemption.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, I mean, this dirty pigsty, this fisherman seemed completely content with it, right? Like
Mhm,
he seemed happy. He didn't want anything more. He didn't want anything from the fish.
mhm,
Which, he was kind of a fundamentally decent person. He was always troubled by his wife asking for more.
mhm,
Uh, his wife is the one that has to be in the pigsty more than he is when he's off. He can go to the ocean every day. It's maybe a little bit harder for her.
mhm,
But yeah, it's maybe I would think, especially after the wife having attained the ascendancy of Christendom, that she would be maybe have a pretty difficult time for a very long time, and that would be a long purgatory uh, of being in the pigsty. But yeah, very different experience maybe for the fisherman. I would think the fisherman would at the end of the story, the fisherman would appreciate the pigsty even more than he did before. And
mhm,
and she, God, it's hard to imagine. I mean, she's only characterized in this story as being avaricious, wanting more and more. It's hard to imagine her kind of turning over a new leaf and kind of learning her lesson.
mhm.
But, like you said, maybe this is the best chance she has. But I mean, what do you think? From imagining just this character type, you think she could learn something from this? She just be bitter.
Well, there's the opportunity, but maybe she'll view it just as only punishment. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I
maybe
don't
that's the
know.
best. Yeah. But she's part of the story that maybe can help others.
Mhm.
But if she heard this story, she might just try to think of another way out of it and to, or that she should have. I still think they could have. I think this could have ended up the story could have ended up she just stops at the cottage. There's often stories where someone catches a magical being and has some kind of negotiation and does get something in return. But yeah, there has to be some kind of struggle, some kind of building of virtue through
Mhm.
like through that struggle, through difficulty and
Mhm.
character growth. And then you kind
Yeah.
of are able to you have a gift now and you can serve others like the story of the spirit in the bottle.
Yeah, it's like you mentioning stories kind of reminds me like in the story she seems to know like stories herself. So she knows that if you find something enchanted,
Right, yeah.
you can ask something of it. But she
That's
seems
right.
kind of blind to the rest of the story,
That's right.
where you have to be careful with what you ask for, and she doesn't see her own story kind of uh, playing out.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, I just thought that was a little funny, actually.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good insight. Yeah, having it's like having half knowledge is worse than being ignorant. Like only reading one book is makes you a dangerous person.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the better person here and the happier person. And he is it that he doesn't understand these kinds of stories, or he's just content with not living in them? Yeah, maybe he doesn't want to be Aladdin with the genie because he knows that more often than not, you're gonna end up regretting
Mhm.
having made your wishes. But yeah, she sees maybe the stories as not, she doesn't understand the lesson that one can get from
Mhm.
them. And she simply understands that, oh,
Mhm.
you were in that type of story.
Mhm. Yeah, or yeah, I guess he seems to know stories too because he comments that if I catch a talking fish, it's best to let it go. So, uh, like I think he says that when he catches the flounder. Um,
He does, but
so,
I thought that was just him sort of reasoning like, well, it must be a human being, so, a fish that can talk, I should certainly let go anyhow. Hmm. Well, now I'm starting to see it from the way you're saying it that this could be like a dangerous situation or something. Like this talking fish. I don't know about this sucker.
mhm.
With
Yeah,
that, he.
well,
Hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
I thought, yeah, being a decent person on top of knowing stories uh, too. So,
Hmm. Having a long streak of blood behind him. We talked about that after he let the fish go the first time. It had a long streak of
mm,
blood behind him. But you thought that maybe doesn't mean very much. I thought maybe just it shows that he really is a human.
um, look, I just viewed it as kind of a symbol that they'll be meeting again a lot. Like he'll come back and kind of follow the trail, so to say, or keep meeting the flounder throughout the story. So I kind of thought that was like a maybe a little foreshadowing that he'll be seeing the flounder again
Hmm. Why? From the streak of blood.
because it's like a trail. So
It's
like
just a line
kind
that
of
links
following.
them.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but. But yeah, I could see it from what you thought though, that just showing the flounder's humanity.
Hmm. Yeah, either way they are linked, him and the flounder and his wife. And after all that's said and done, they just return back to the state they started with. It's usually these stories have a beginning and a change and an end where things are different. It's interesting that in this story, things change to a tremendous degree, although also not because they're always in the same place. Like many stories have someone traveling somewhere, but this time he's always just going from his home location to the sea back. And when he comes back, everything is changed. So that's a little different, but it's still in the same place, technically. She is Hope on the same grounds that she was Lady of the Pigsty. So this story is different than other stories in that way.
Mhm.
But yeah, and I talked I talked I think in various ways about the ending of this story, but I think more than anything the tone to me seems comedic that and they I want to be like God, and then boom, back to the pigsty, and they are there to this day. But I don't know. What do you feel like is the tone, the end of the story?
Yeah, I thought the last night was more funny too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, really, really, really be careful what you wish for. You might just end up back in your pigsty. But yeah, I guess it's just fitting, you wish for too much, you do too wrong, and nothing's gonna change at all. Okay, well, you have any other thoughts on this one?
Not so far.
Okay. Yeah, I enjoyed the story. It's a little different than other stories that we've read because he doesn't no one goes abroad or anything. But everything changes right at home. But yeah, be careful what you wish for. Be careful how you change, how you see things. Um, and if you catch a talking fish, maybe just throw it back, or maybe just negotiate. Just ask for something reasonable, just a little good change in life, but not to start having political power. You might end up wanting to be like God. Yeah, well, sounds good.